What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. In this video, I am going to showcase some new macros that I have created for World of Warcraft using a mod called Gnome Sequencer Enhanced. This mod allows you to create extremely powerful macros that can perform most, if not all, of your rotation with a single button. This can be extremely useful for individuals like myself who has a disability, or for people who just want to be lazy. So keep in mind that these macros are created primarily for those who are playing the game at a more casual level, but feel free to use them and alter them as you see fit. If you have further questions about the mod or my macros, I recommend checking out my FAQ video, and if you'd like to learn more about how to play the class in question, you might want to check out my crash course. It can help get you started, and I will provide links to all of these things in the description below. Today we're going to check out the macro that I've created for Windwalker monks. Now I'm pretty excited about this one because for whatever reason this was one of the harder ones for me to figure out. Now what I've come up with is a macro that does work what I feel like pretty well in what I've tested and stuff like that. So I feel really good about it because it was a pretty easy macro to make once I kind of figured things out. But overall, it was a process, so I'm actually very excited about this one. So we type /GS to open up Gnome Sequencer, scroll down, and you can see there is a Windwalker, Kef Windwalker for single target and for AoE. We're going to right click on that, and as always, you guys, there's always, quid pro quos when you're using macros. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to have just things are going to happen that would not be ideal. Sometimes you're going to overcap chi, sometimes you're going to use two abilities in the same row and not get the full advantage of combo strikes, that kind of stuff. We'll go over a little bit of that in the talent section. But yeah, so you just got to remember there's certain things like that. We'll go over each spell accordingly and explain what I mean. But so first things first, spinning crane kick. If you want to use that, you hold down shift. Now that's pretty self-explanatory. Whether you're using the talent for a super powered one, or you don't want to just use spinning crane kick all the time. You use it in AoE. You want to build up the mark of the crane and all that kind of stuff first. So yeah, you hold down shift whenever you want to use spinning crane kick. Now the only challenge with this, of course, is that getting the chi and not spinning it on something else like blackout kick, or fist of fury, spinning crane kick, that kind of stuff, or rising sun kick, I should say. Obviously, it might be hard at times to actually get a spinning crane kick in there. So just keep that in mind. It might even be best to make a second macro that has like, just Tiger Palm and spinning crane kick, or Tiger Palm, expel harm, spinning crane kick, specifically for when you've built up everything and now you want to actually use spinning crane kick. I don't know, but this is what I'm using and it seems to be working for the most part. You just got to pay attention to when you have enough chi so that you can use spinning crane kick and not spam the macro normally, because once you hold down shift, the macro will prioritize spinning crane kicks. So I hope that I've explained that pretty well. But yeah, it's just basically a matter of the macro is simply going to be using abilities as soon as it can. It's going to be spinning your chi and building your chi as best as it can. So just keep that in mind. But first thing first is Touch of Death. Now, this works out pretty well. It's going to use it, as you do battle. Of course, you get a lot of effect, obviously, when the target is lower on health. So it's going to use it whenever it's off cooldown. You may not like that. You might feel like you want to use Touch of Death on the separate button, but it has a relatively long cooldown. And once you're in the middle of a fight, it's just going to use it on cooldown, and it's you don't have to think about it. So it's just there for the simplicity, but it's up to you. Anytime you don't want an ability in the macro, simply remove it and then use it on a separate button accordingly. But I try to put in here as much as I can. So next up, obviously, expel harm. I put this early on to try to build some chi as quickly as possible, because this is a priority macro. It's going to go down these abilities as quickly as it can. You need to spam this one very fast, properly, maybe with a rapid fire button or something like that. But you do need to spam this one very fast to get the most, because there's a lot of abilities in here. So especially if you use some of these talents. But expel harm early on to get you some healing. Obviously, you want to use expel harm on cooldown, and then of course next up, if you choose Fist of the White Tiger, you're going to be using that one on cooldown if you choose it as a talent. I've got those ones again early on. Again, now for the most part, I don't really ever see myself over capping chi, but I'm not saying it can't happen from time to time. Obviously, putting these up and having them prioritize over chi spenders is not something that I wanted to do originally, but I just felt like it worked out better in the macro to put these higher up in the priority, allowing you to build some quick chi early on in the fight, and then obviously when they're off cooldown and continuously building up that chi. So it does help to have those higher up. Now next up, Whirling Dragon Punch. Obviously you want to put this up high, so that way when you use Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick and they're on cooldown, it's going to use Whirling Dragon Punch as soon as possible if you choose that as a talent. And of course you follow that up with Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick as as in the priority, so that obviously those are going to be used on cooldown again. You have the chi as soon as these abilities are off cooldown, and as soon as you have enough chi, the macro should try to use these as quickly as it can. Obviously it's spamming through a bunch of different abilities, but it's going to try to get to them as quickly as it can. Okay. Next up, Rushing Jade Wind. If you choose that as a talent, of course, it's going to use it on cooldown. You're going to see a bunch of green everywhere and all that kind of stuff. Next up, Tiger Palm, and then Blackout Kick. So originally, I was trying a lot of different things. I put Blackout Kick above Tiger Palm, and then I was spamming Blackout Kick for some reason. It just didn't work very well. Now I've got Tiger Palm in front of Blackout Kick. Sometimes it will use like 2 Tiger Palms. The good thing is, Tiger Palm uses energy, right? So once your energy is down, the macro is going to not use Tiger Palm until you get the energy back, and then it's going to use like whatever chi spender is off cooldown, or it's just going to use Blackout Kick. And I felt like for the most part that works out much better. I rarely have a situation where I'm overcapping chi again, and it does use Blackout Kick. So this seems to work better. I tried to do something where I did like a cast sequence, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and then there would be times where I would have no chi, and then the macro was stuck on Blackout Kick. So that did not work. I tried a couple of different things, but oddly enough, it was a simple fix. Put Tiger Palm in front of Blackout Kick, and now the macro seems to be working pretty well. Oddly, I was surprised because I was thinking I was going to have to just have Blackout Kick on a separate button or on a modifier. That's originally what I thought I was going to have to do, but it seems to be working out pretty well with it like this. So you guys let me know what you think. But again, if you feel like you're doing one over the other or something like that, if you're not getting enough Blackout Kicks in there, you can always use Blackout Kick on a separate button, or you can add a modifier. Just like with Spinning Crane Kick up on the top here, you just create another line, cast, mod, control, or mod alt, and then Blackout Kick, and you can have Blackout Kick as an option there. But in my experience, I feel like I use Blackout Kick relatively often, so just something to keep in mind though. Okay, so then of course Chi Wave and Chi Burst, if you choose either one of those talents, accordingly it's going to use those on cooldown. I put those last because I wanted to prioritize making sure you're getting your chi and all that kind of stuff, and it still uses chi because they're cooldown abilities, and it simply just uses them on cooldown. It works out pretty well. And obviously, as you can see, I've got no channeling in pretty much all of these lines, so that way it's not going to interrupt your Fists of Fury, and it's working out really well. Sometimes no channeling can be a little bit, iffy. Sometimes it just doesn't work in these macros for whatever reason, but I never interrupt Fists of Fury, and it seems to be working out great. So I'm really happy about that as well. So overall, the macro seems to be performing pretty well in my experience. Now, of course, we've got a couple more things to go over. Your cooldowns, your offensive cooldowns. Invoke Zuyen, the White Tiger, is first. That one is actually on the global cooldown, so I've put that first. Follow that up with Storm, Earth, and Fire. Now, something to remember is like Storm, Earth, and Fire has 2 charges. You might, want to use that at a certain time. Like, you don't want to use 2 charges right away. If that's how it is for you, then you might want to, take Storm, Earth, and Fire off your macro and use it on a separate button or something like that. But this macro is simply going to use whenever you have a charge or 2 charges, it's going to use it, and then it's going to use it again. As soon as Storm, Earth, and Fire ends, it's going to reuse it if it has a second charge. So just keep that in mind. It just uses them, spams them right away. That's how it's going to work. And then, of course, if you choose Energizing Elixir, the macro is going to use that as soon as it's available. Now, having said that, that's pretty much everything you need to know about how on the macro page. Let's go ahead and look at talents. And the first thing we will look at is Energizing Elixir. Now, this one, you chug it. It's a minute cooldown, and you'll generate 2 chi and a bunch of energy over 5 seconds. Now, this is very nice. The problem is it will use this right away. So that first use, you won't get the benefit of 2 chi unless it Well, actually, I guess you would, because you don't have any chi. So in the beginning, it will work out. Let me rephrase that. In the beginning, it will work out pretty well because you'll instantly get 2 chi, and obviously you'll be using energy on like Tiger Palm. So you'll get that energy back over the course of time, which is fine. But sometimes, I mean, if you have like, say, max chi and energizing elixir comes off cooldown, it's going to use it regardless of how many chi you have. That's what I wanted to say. So just keep that in mind, obviously. That's how it is with all these. I'm just going to use them on cooldown. You'll get the benefits of them. For the most part, you know, it's a little random in terms of where you are and when they come off cooldown, but it's for simplicity's sake. So if you feel like you want to, like everything else, if you want to manage energizing elixir on a separate button, then that's what you would want to do that and just remove it from the macros. So other than that, pretty much everything else is, you know, very straightforward. All these abilities, all these cooldown abilities, Fist of the White Tiger, Chi Burst, Chi Wave, Whirling Dragon Punch, they're all in the macro. We've already covered all that kind of stuff. Rushing Jade Wind. Of course, you've got this one, Dance of Chi Ji. When you get this proc, if you choose it, then obviously you'll hit shift. You'll get a free spinning crane kick, and you'll deal a bunch of damage. So pretty easy to use that with the macro. Just hold down shift when that procs, okay? And then, okay, real quick, Serenity, if you choose this as a talent, then Storm, Earth, and Fire in the macro will simply become Serenity, and Serenity will still get used by the macro, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. The only one that you might want to consider, and I'm using Hit Combo right now because I like it. It's an easy passive talent. The thing is that this one builds as you benefit from combo strikes. The way combo strikes works is that you don't want to use 2 abilities in a row. Like, you don't want to do 2 Tiger Palms. You want to do like Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, then Tiger Palm again, or something like that, some variation of that. You don't want to do 2 Blackout Kicks. So sometimes the macro will use 2 abilities in a row. Sometimes it's 2 Tiger Palms, sometimes it's 2 Blackout Kicks. The more abilities that you have, the less likely that is to happen, but it can still happen, and sometimes that can hurt Hit Combo and combo strikes. That's the only flaw. The only flaw with the macro is that sometimes you don't capitalize on combo strikes, okay? So that's something to keep in mind, but that, again, that's the quid pro quo of using a macro. There's always going to be some setbacks. It's for simplicity's sake, and for the most part, I feel like this macro works pretty well, but you are, free to try it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and I will see you guys on the next one. And that's basically everything you need to know about these macros and how they work. Remember, these macros work best when they are spammed. So either press the button as fast as you can, or use a rapid fire button, which is fair game as long as you're the one pressing the button. As powerful as these macros are, they are far from perfect. So if you want to play the game at a high level and get the most out of your class, I highly recommend that you play the game without these macros. But if you'd like to get started with Gnome Sequencer Enhanced, you can do so by downloading and installing the mod. A link can be found in the description below. Along with it, you will find paste bin links for any macros featured in this video. If you'd like to use them, simply click the link and you'll be taken to a raw paste bin of the macro. Select the entire macro, copy, log into the appropriate class, type /GS to open the Gnome Sequencer screen, click on Import, paste the macro into the available space, make sure that Automatically Create Macro Icon is checked, and click Import. You can now drag the icon to your action bar and the macro is ready to be used. If you followed all the steps correctly, the macro should be working fine. If something isn't working, start over and make sure that you follow all the steps correctly. If you are having further issues, I recommend that you check out the mod page or contact the mod's author for more information. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.